From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 Podcast, brought to you by the 50/50 Podcast Network. It is episode 135. I am joined by, first and foremost, my lovely co-host on the Inside Texas High School Soccer Series, Rafa. Rafa, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good. Just enjoying some soccer games today. Watching some English game.
Yeah, I'm not enjoying the game that's going on right now, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think a lot of my buddies are not enjoying it, especially that first half.
Yeah, thank God we have a show going on right now. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, awesome. Good deal. And I'll dive into that a little bit more in a minute. But we are proud to be joined by a personal friend, great colleague, coach who I have the utmost respect for, who I really know knows his stuff, true professional in our game. He was recently announced as the head women's soccer coach of the University of Dallas, the Crusaders. He is Coach Jeremiah Narvaez. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't think of I remember when I got that phone call from you, and I was I was very excited for you, happy for you, and then also kind of a little upset that I wasn't invited to be on your coaching staff. But I'll get over it, man. I'll get over it.
In time, I'll get you here. Don't worry. In time.
I'm messing with you. No, very happy for you. I think, without a doubt, University of Dallas women's soccer home run hire in you, and I'm really excited to see some of the things that you're going to be doing, and kind of also excited because we're going through a coaching move, both you and I together simultaneously. So very excited. They're going to be very lucky to have you. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate your time. But before we kind of dive into just all the questions that we're going to pepper with you, Coach, both of you gentlemen, just tell me what's going on. Lots of games on today, but what's the mood? What's the vibe? What's going on?
Go ahead, Coach.
No, I mean, obviously, yeah, it's a lot going on. It's funny. Most of the things that I'm hearing have little to do with games going on as much as all of the reactions to them. So,
Right.
I think the other day, after that, Turkey game, and you've got Donovan and all those guys going off on it. I think it set a lot of people going, and some of it he's not wrong for, obviously, especially when you see Ronaldo, and what he's doing with Portugal, the willingness to go and play for your country. It's asks a lot of questions of the guys that are taking holidays for us here for Gold Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that brought a lot of buzz, and I remember in the middle of that post game, the Nations League, I was like, oh wow, he's really going there. I was surprised. I was surprised. Yeah, he didn't pull any punches for sure. So awesome, Rafa. How about you, buddy? I know you hit on some of it, but anything else?
I've just been busy helping, like, is it with the website, just with the admissions process, like getting them enrolled, and then the new change. So I know a lot of people don't know. So I work with the University of Houston Victoria. Well, that's going to change. So September 1st, they just passed a bill. So we're now going to be Texas A&M Victoria.
Oh, is it September 1st? Is it?
Yeah, September 1st.
I thought it was July. I thought it was 1 July.
So we just started the process of switching over to A&M. We're working, they have some members from the A&M system already coming, but officially September 1st, we become Texas A&M Victoria.
That is awesome. So nothing else will change for you, right? Other than just the name of the school, nothing will change for you. Yeah. So
name of the school.
Yeah.
Just hopefully maybe a pay raise.
And for our listeners, Rafa, can you hit on some of our listeners that are listening for the first time that normally listen to us on maybe Inside Texas High School Soccer, but not as much on the podcast? Kind of tell us a little bit more about what you do for University of Houston Victoria, or soon to be Texas A&M Victoria?
So I work on the admissions side, student recruitment. I'm the senior admissions counselor for Central and West Texas, based here in San Antonio. But I have a big territory. I go all the way south to Laredo, up north to Hillsboro, and then everything west to the Panhandle and El Paso, and then a
Hmm.
little bit east to like Corsicana, Groesbeck, Luling. So I think about 600 high schools in my territory. So
It's crazy,
and
man.
then
Yeah. And
minus the community colleges too.
yeah.
So
And yet somehow you spend all your time at Lockhart with barbecue. So explain that one to me somehow. It never
I
fails,
guess
man. It never fails.
I get students from there, so hey, shout out to them. Like I said, I get students from there, so
Yeah,
shout out
yeah.
to them.
All
So,
good. All good. Yeah, I
but
got to pick on you. I got to pick on you. So awesome. Good. Good. Good to have you guys on here. Shout out to Texas Chief One, who's the ambassador, right? Without a doubt, of Southwest Boys Soccer. Chief, thanks for the shout out. Really appreciate you. Um, as well as Coach Sazo and staff out at El Paso de Valle High School. Getting in a word here. I don't know if she's. I know she's not congratulating me, Maya. So she's got to be congratulating you. So
I
uh,
appreciate that.
yeah. But shout out to Coach Sazo and all the family out in the 915. So all right, let's dive in. So Coach, before we kind of start, I know you pretty extensively, obviously, but
Yeah.
for our community listening here today, right? Coaches, parents, student athletes that might be listening, right? Give us a little bit of a sneak peek into your background and how you got here to be the head women's soccer coach at the University of Dallas.
Absolutely. I was hired probably, it'll be maybe next week. It'll actually be probably a month.
Hmm.
So that hire came from really a personal intention to always want to be at the D3 level for both academic and athletic reasons. But my coaching career kind of started on accident. I was at the University of Incarnate Word in San Antonio, had just finished playing.
Hey,
Went
sorry.
to,
Hey, we're both alums, so I can do that, man.
oh, yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Go
I'm going
Word.
to startle you there.
and and yeah, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And my coach at the time, Dennis Currier, who's now at University of Dayton, said, "Until you figure it out, come and be a graduate assistant." So worked some summer camps. Anyone who's done the soccer summer camps basically did some babysitting for a couple of weeks there.
No,
Uh,
no, no.
and But then, yeah, came on as a graduate assistant. Went from men's to women's programs there at UIW, and really caught the bug. Enjoyed coaching and have been really fortunate from there. Been on staffs at St. Mary's as an assistant, St. Edward's in Austin, and then all the while kind of doing, club and trying to sort out, do you do club or do you do college?
Right.
That question. Yeah, and had really just a phenomenal opportunity. Came through Nick Evans
Yeah.
down at SAFC with the Pro Academy. Funny thing
Also,
is,
also another UIW alum,
he's a
right? Kind of
UW alum, and
get that in there again. Get that in
quite
there again.
interesting because Evo was someone who I recruited to play for the men's team at UIW. Fast forward, he's someone I consider a mentor and was my boss. I mean,
Yeah.
just an unbelievable Hector. I know his soccer brain, and moreover, he's just a phenomenal human being.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, was there at SAFC in the Pro Academy for 5 years. Worked staffs with Darren and then Alan Marcina, and the bugs was still there. The itch was still there. Dylan Harrison, allowed me to jump on his staff there at Trinity University with the women's team, and through that connection, Trinity, they're leaving the conference. The
Yeah,
scout,
I saw that. I saw that.
you they were in University of Dallas's conference. I was moving up here. I was planning to with my wife and kids, and they connected us. And then fast forward, I spent 2 seasons as an assistant at UD, and fortunate to get the opportunity when Lexi Stinson left to take a job, a Division One job, an assistant job. I
Nice.
I jumped at the opportunity to be the head coach and lead that program.
Yeah. Now, I know you had obviously you feel like D3 somewhere along the way you had in our conversations you had kind of identified D3 as being probably that right fit for you, that
Yeah,
perfect fit for you. Um, a lot of our listeners, a lot of the high school coaches, a lot of the players, student athletes that I speak with, parents that I speak with, they don't seem to kind of quite be in the know, unsure, unclear when it comes to the D3 side of the house, right? So,
yeah,
from your perspective, right, and I know you're speaking to it a little bit from a coaching perspective, but
right.
what was it about the D3 world that helped you identify that, hey, this is probably the right fit for me as a professional, as a coach in our profession?
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, Hatcher, because I think we probably all go through it as coaches where maybe starting out, we want to be here, right? We want to be at this quote unquote highest level, or maybe, with our sort of ego and status, we want to be, where the maybe light shines brightest kind of thing. Um, and I really credit, Dylan, Spencer there at Trinity, and that group. They so what it really was I saw probably the balance and perspective that the Division III athlete had in terms of really their academic priority, where their
Hmm.
focus was on that, but how competitive they were. And nothing was light for them, in terms of how they train, their commitment to the game, the professionalism that's there. But more than anything, it was that balance and really that focus on that the academic was centered to it. Division II has their tagline that there is a balance. I
Right.
think that is their tagline for sure. And then, Division I, you have a little bit more pressures, that come with that. I just felt for my personality, I felt for what the environment was. Division III invested more intensely in the individual as a student athlete, and really took that motto and that tag to heart. It fit how I saw the game should be played. There was often more emphasis and even a little bit more leeway, if you will,
Hmm.
on the ability to play the game in a way that I saw it. Where things weren't necessarily result centered. That you knew that you were going to have individuals there for 4 years, not transferring, not worried about moving out, that you could
Yeah.
build
Yeah.
for that time.
Yeah. Yeah, and the interesting part, what a lot of people really don't know, and I know this is as we as we all know, college sports, college soccer is no different. Is rapidly evolving, right? Kind of.
Absolutely.
We don't exactly entirely know how. That's the odd part of it, right? But we know that a lot of changes have happened, are happening, and more are coming. But the interesting thing about D3 in particular is it has the largest number of total student athletes of all the
Mhm.
divisions, and per capita, right, meaning per campus, you're going to encounter more student athletes there than at a D2 or a D1
Right.
campus, right? Just I think the numbers used to be 1 in 6 students are a student
And
athlete at the
it should
varsity
be still
level.
in and around. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know that that's still current
The-
data, but I know that's what it used to be up until probably about 3 years ago. So, all right. So you're on the job now for about a month.
mhm.
What does that mean? Not in terms of time frame, right? 30 days or so, but in terms of the transition process. Where are you exactly? I mean, how far along are you in terms of moving into your office, right? Putting things up. I know you were on the phone all day yesterday, right? Because we
Yeah.
had that conversation, right? So,
Mhm.
where are you in that transition process of moving into the head role?
Right. And it does vary a little bit on when you take over,
Yeah.
but obviously me coming in at the start of summer, um, I've missed a good portion of opportunity to maybe engage with having 2025 seniors that have just graduated to maybe see if they are available or still interested. So the immediate task when you come in is obviously to meet with the current group and then
Hmm.
establish relationships with either those incoming or those still interested. So I'm sort of in and around that period, and to your point of maybe parents or others not knowing, recruits not knowing sort of how that Division 3 process works is, Division 3, it follows the train of Division 1, right? So when you have so many individuals committing early, eighth grade, freshman year, sophomore in high school, for Division 3, you have the junior possibly committing, but you're really still recruiting kids into their senior year. So
Hmm. Yeah.
for me, that was a big opportunity that even though coming in just a month ago, that was kind of where I was at in the process, catching up with recruits that were still being actively recruited from the graduate assistant who did a phenomenal job of in the interim taking that on, but then still connecting with the current group that's
Yeah. Yeah.
going through that transition.
Right.
Where do they fall in? Do they have a place? Is it a clean slate for them? So that has been really the big month right now, establishing
Hmm.
relationships with the current group, checking in with them. I got in, and I think the next day they were leaving for summer, right? So
Oh,
I
of
didn't
course.
even really, aside from the interview process, I didn't get to meet with them individually. I didn't get to meet with
Hmm.
them as a group. Didn't get to meet with the classes. So typically, that's what a coach would want to do, right?
Hmm.
Is establish that as they're going off and do that. So I'm doing it over phone calls. I'm doing it through text, and it's. I think the advantage I have is that I've been with the group, as
Yeah,
well
there's some continuity there, right? Yeah.
previously. So I do know them, and I think that they were okay with that. But that was a big part of it. And then you shift from what 2025s are available to then you shift right into the next year. So
Yeah.
as you mentioned, I was on phone calls yesterday and today, and it is establishing that communication with potential recruits coming into to 2026. Um, on top of that, you've got gear that needs to be ordered. You've got relationships that need to be established within the university itself, meeting
Hmm.
with admissions, meeting with financial aid, meeting with professors and the other coaches. So, to say where exactly I'm at, I'm just trying to check those things off a list. But it is, connecting with current squad, with future recruits, um, having my face and name around campus, and meeting with the people that I plan to engage with day to day.
Yeah.
Which is again admissions, financial aid, professors, and the like.
Yeah. You mentioned ordering the gear. I'm a large coach. Just putting that out there. Okay. Just putting that out there. So
I've got you. You and Rafa taken care of. Don't worry,
there you
Rafa. I
go.
know
Awesome.
you're a medium. Slim.
Rafa's
I got you.
Rafa likes to border on small. He's kind of a medium guy. So
I got you, brother. We're
all
good.
right. Rafa.
Coach, just how do the players feel like? What can they expect as far as the transition? Since you've been there as an assistant for 2 years, and now you're taking over as a head role. What can the players expect from you?
Absolutely, Rafa. The funny thing is, and I know coaches that have gone through this transition of assistant to head coach within the same program is, and I was very honest with them, is it's you had me in a particular role, and you knew me in a particular way because that was me serving the assistant, and our relationship was a little bit different. So the expectation, at least for the current squad, is knowing that has to change a little bit. In terms of obviously, I could go from providing input without consequence, because my name necessarily wasn't on it, to now, with my name on it, that relationship of what we have alters a little bit, and I have to pass that on now to my assistant. So that was immediate, sort of change and expectation that they needed to have for the current squad. Overall, I come from an environment, again, through SAFC and through coaches that I had, with UIW that I worked with. And again, my best friend probably in the game and a mentor to myself, Nick Evans, where it's a professional environment. And that doesn't mean that because you're getting paid, that's the distinction of it. It's professional in what we want to do, from the smallest detail to the biggest. So what they can expect is obviously a coach who's passionate about the game, who's organized, who intends to have things that are very clear for them, transparent and empathetic, but on a whole is run professionally, from start to finish. And that could be in the session, in the classroom, and then outside of it. And that for me is the biggest thing for them, is they're coming into a professional environment.
Awesome. And that kind of took a little bit of what I was going to get at too, is like, no knock on the previous coach, not, and no
Mhm.
disrespect, not meant it like that, not meant like that at all. But how would this UD squad look different under you, right?
I-
Um,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
and I don't know if you can expand on that beyond what you just said, but that was kind of exactly what I was going to get into.
And for me, the biggest thing that it should look underneath is again is a team that you can talk about, obviously the sort of tactics and approach to the game and things like that. But the biggest thing that I've told them that I want to make sure that is sort of our identity is that we're just absolute competitors. So for me, that's going to be the foundation, the basis of it. Now, how different that is than previous, again, I give Lexi Simpson a amount of credit for how she has built the program, for the 6 to 7 seasons that she was there. So it's one of those where we identify something we want to improve. There is a foundation that they have for it, but that's going to be a massive focus for us. Is that we continue with where we're going, but we improve on what was there. And the biggest trademark that any group that plays us or encounters us is that they come out at saying, UD absolutely competed in every moment, in every facet, in every phase of the game.
Awesome. Well said. Now, so I'm going to rewind here. So a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago, right, you give me that phone call. You give me the great news about you getting you getting the job. How from that point, and you alluded to it a little bit earlier, right? But you're kind of what a coach would maybe normally be doing, but obviously you're kind of in a different situation given the time frame, the time in the calendar. But from that phone call to maybe now and over the next month, right?
Yeah.
What is that action plan? Like, I know what you would like to do or
Right.
what you should be doing, but given we're in the middle of the summer,
Right.
but from that point to now and from now to maybe the next month, what does that action plan look like for you going forward?
Certainly. So, the continuation and establishment of really with recruits, and especially into the 2026 recruits, them understand kind of what you guys have just asked is, what is the expectation and what does the program look like? Right? We're trying to get the action plan of really this idea of going from transition and getting out of those conversations of, okay, this is who the coach was, this is where we're at now, to
Mhm.
here's where we are. This is what the program is. This is how we're moving forward. This is what you're coming into. So a lot of that is that communication and those conversations with recruits, parents, to understand what the program looks like as is now and where it's going in the future. So a big part of that is, again, really that recruitment. So in terms of time, um, I fall into that with every other coach this
Mhm.
summer. Whether that's showcases, ID camps, games, training. I've got to at this point be willing and able to go anywhere, anytime, any place, to be able to get my face in front of student athletes, in front of coaches. So right now, that's sort of the pressing sort of action that needs to be done. Beyond that, it is again the preparation organization for the fall season. So,
Mhm.
how I'm mapping out the preseason, how the summer workouts are being planned and communicated with, arrivals on campus, and the logistics that surround that.
Yeah. So over the last month, right, given all the turmoil, the change, the time of year, the schedule, take
Mhm.
us through. Have you kind of settled in? Is your prototypical day in this first month, has it largely looked the same, or has it been all over the place so far?
It initially was all over the place, yeah, because I I caught a list of here's what should have been done to this date.
Mhm.
Not necessarily that it
Right.
wasn't done, but because of that hiring process,
Right. Right. It's just a
here's the
tough
things
spot.
that needed to be, done yesterday. Here's what's going on right now, and here's what you need to probably figure out within the next 2 weeks. So I'm going out. I'm going from you know trying to figure out schedules that might should have been confirmed probably 2 weeks ago to then calling the recruit that is trying to decide whether or not she's going to live on or off campus to trying to get everybody's sizes in gear order, right? So yeah, it was a bit of a Tasmanian devil type existence, going from here to there spinning. But at this point now, have thankfully kind of fallen into the groove of a typical day, which obviously is a still a check in on what needs to be done, ordered, sort of confirmed, whether
Mhm.
that's again games, student athletes, recruits, gear of that such. And then a big portion of it is, catching in on, again, the recruits in terms of who's still available, whether that's, transfers that we're talking to, maybe some late students that are still coming into it, and obviously the rising seniors. So
Right. Right.
a lot of that really surrounds how we're mapping our recruiting board. Um, and what that does in terms of region, class, classification, what calls need to be made, what emails need to be followed up on, what campus visits need to be set, and that right now at least is a big chunk of the day. Trying to organize those things.
Yeah. Awesome. Well said. And that's a good. I love asking those type of questions because it's like, hey, let us a sneak peek behind the curtain of what that chaos, that organized chaos is
Yeah,
of the life of a coach, right? Especially in your situation, right? Yeah. So that's exactly why I asked it. So,
yeah.
Rafa.
Yeah, coach, I was gonna ask, as far as like selling your program, especially like you mentioned about the juniors soon to be seniors,
Yeah.
what's gonna be your selling point to come to University of Dallas to play for you?
Absolutely. I mean, chief among it, and you know, I say it to University of Dallas, but it should be, any university. We want you to be here because you want to be here, right? Yes, we have to sell a part of the university and what it is, but at the end of the day, we want them to understand that we want you here because you want to be here, right? So because of that, we make those things very clear about what the university offers, what its challenges are, as well. We don't want to hide those. And you necessarily need to put on the points of academic, athletic, and obviously the social, because it has to be a complete and holistic experience for any student athlete that comes here. Um, chief, primary mind that I need to be able to sell me, right? That's a relationship that they're going to have and want to have for 4 years. So we want them to understand the expectations, the standards, who I am and how I do things, and that I'm someone that can support them in what they're looking to do, both on and off the field. So that's a big selling point that basically my experience, what I plan to do with the program, and what they have for me day to day. Um, in terms of the group itself, The girls are amazing. The team has been that way, and again, it's I give a credit to Joseph Curry's the assistant right now, and Lexi Stinson, the former head coach. Is they've built a culture in a team that can best be summed up as connected. They're very good with each other on and off the fields, and it's an environment and a group and a culture that you want to come into. So that's something that we want to be really selling and pushing. That a lot of the recruits I've talked about definitely want. The university itself is a it's a beautiful campus. It's a small campus, but it's one that we sell for them because the challenges academically are there. It's a rigorous academic school. It's a challenging school, and we don't hide from that. That's something we're very proud of and something we want to push. So it's a school that doesn't necessarily just prepare you for a transition from high school to college and from college to your first job. It's truly a transformational school. It's one that really wants to make these young men and women uh, into people that truly can impact their communities, their families, immediately, and beyond that. So we push that academic standard, that quality, and that rigor because it's something that we want them to accept and embrace. And then again, within Irving and Dallas, there's plenty of opportunity for every individual, no matter their interests and hobbies, that you can find something for yourself on and off campus. Irving, the space that we're in, its proximity to Dallas proper in the DFW area, it's got something for everyone. So we're in a big city with the DFW Metroplex, but thankfully we're sort of on our little island in Irving, in that space where you can make it as big as you want, or you can feel the intimacy and investment of a small school in Irving.
Yeah. Biggest, in speaking, in staying with that, coach,
Hmm.
biggest misconception, in your personal opinion, maybe about what you've encountered, right, through the recruiting trail, not just now, in the past,
Yeah.
biggest misconception about the University of Dallas and maybe, UD women's soccer?
We talked a little bit, sort of off camera before, Hector, is that it's UD specifically, is obviously, but it comes with Division III, and it comes with sort of the small environment. Um, the fact that it is small or it is Division III, that it's maybe not competitive or that it's not professional or it doesn't demand these things of you.
Yeah.
And that's just outright false. And I don't say that as a Division III coach alone. I'm sure you could say that across divisions. That any
Oh, yeah.
Division II or Division I coach would certainly echo that. We're Division III by choice. It's size of school. It's profile academically. It's what we feel is a good place for our student athlete.
Right. Right.
And so that tends to be the biggest misconception of um, it's sort of a recreational or it's a soccer light kind of environment. And what
Yeah.
we want to make certain is it's an environment that has perspective. It's an environment that understands what the rigors and demands of the student athlete are, and we want to not necessarily accommodate, which to sort of to allow or let individuals off. We want to adapt because we understand what is important and priority for them.
Hmm.
So that probably tends to be the most from at least a soccer perspective. UD as a small campus is that you hear a lot of, well, it feels, I don't want it to be like it was in high school, right? And it's this idea of that you could maybe think of it that way, but we embrace the size because the campus, your professors, and they know you. They're truly invested in who you are, what you're doing, as our coaches, as our any administrator that's there. It allows you to not just be a number, but to be an individual and a person, and to have those people that truly are supposed to be in your sort of circle, in your support staff, just go out. The student athlete, maybe at Division 1, has their coach, has their team, has that athletic training environment, and they go to a bigger class in a bigger environment. For us at Division 3, it might be smaller, but for us, it's intimate and it's investment, and that's for us the biggest thing that we want to promote. And sometimes a misconception of, well, it can just feel like this, or it can just be high school because of size, and that's not at all the case.
Yeah. Awesome. Love that. Love that. Great input. Now, you switch hats, right? You go from the often, I asked this question yesterday on our high school coaches panel of the new first time head coach. And
Yeah,
I generally know the answer with you, but I'll still ask it. You switch roles from the often, good friend, best friend, highly beloved assistant to now you're
yeah,
switching roles into the dark side, right? The head coach, right? The big, in the big chair, and
yeah.
who's not always understood or who's not always liked. How do you how do you just mentally prepare for that, or what are your thoughts on that?
The mental preparation is a big thing because you
And I
are,
ask that. I'm sorry. I ask
yeah.
that partially because they're seeing that. Oh,
We got you now.
there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
All
you were
right.
just saying that
Is
they
it?
partly seen me.
Yeah, no, I was saying I ask that partially also because they're going from this same group is seeing you from assistant to now head,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of the real reason why I asked that.
Yeah, absolutely. The general is that, to the first part of it, is you're essentially switching identities a little bit,
Mm,
right? So you're pulling off one mask to maybe put on another, and the biggest challenge you have with that is consistency, right? You don't want to be inconsistent to a group that has known you one way and now needs to know you another, because
right,
that inconsistency puts them on uneven footing, right? And your word, you lose a little bit more as a result of it. The sort of mental space that I had to put myself in was really continuation of what I wanted to do, which and have done, is to be very clear, to be very concise, and be very transparent. And as I told you in that meeting that I had with them and the interview process, that was what I had to make very clear: was this is how you knew me, right? And this will and needs to change. And um, just like anything, the principle is still there. The demands of what I would ask and the standard is still there. But yes, how we might interact will shift.
mhm,
And it was something that I wanted to definitely be upfront and be very clear about. I think, and again, Hector, we've known each other for probably as long. You can assume my demeanor and what they experienced on the field didn't necessarily change too much,
right, right,
right? So I think that helped a little bit, probably helped a lot, is they knew what they were getting, and they knew what that transition would be like, because it wasn't terribly great. Um, I, I'm pretty consistent. I've, you know, had the fortunateness of knowing who I am. So I don't try and coach like somebody else. I don't try and speak or act like somebody else. I can only be me. Um, you know, they ask me, sort of what's your style and what's your demeanor on the sideline, and I know you'll notice. I tell them like this: the way I'm talking to you now, the way I'm on this podcast is how I'm going to be on the field. It won't change. I don't understand a reason to be. Me yelling more or less, or me going silent, doesn't change
right,
anything, and probably is less effective. So I think that has probably helped me. Is It's been consistent. Who I am now is pretty much the same, and the only real difference is title.
Yeah, awesome. FYI, spoiler alert: the massacre in Nashville is over. Just went final. So, if we have listeners, if we have, I don't know why you would want to go watch it later, but yeah,
I was
it
about to
was
say
not pretty.
no.
It was not pretty. So, all right, Coach, we switch gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
Thoughts on? I know you've been in this state for a long time, right? What are your
Yes.
thoughts on? I guess it's kind of a two-parter, right? Your thoughts, what you've noticed, your takeaway. I know you're not in it, so this is why, from afar, as a college coach, I'll ask you this. Plus, you've been coaching on the club side for a while
Yeah.
now. Your thoughts on the current kind of state, what you notice, what stands out to you about maybe Texas high school soccer, and how do you plan to engage that Texas high school soccer community?
Uh, the
Not
when I
loaded, I promise. Not loaded, I promise. It's
No,
not
no, no,
loaded.
not at all. And I'll take you back just in terms of the context of when I started probably coaching collegiately. It would have been, oh 04, oh 05, oh 05, oh 06. So, that was on the boys' side. So
Hmm.
the DA was sort of just beginning and
Right.
starting in that respect. So the existence of club versus high school, right? It probably has always existed in some form or fashion. I mean, I'm 42. I graduated in high school in 2000, and I dealt with it in when, club was, blue, yellow, and green, or whatever colors they were. It was just those three divisions. Yet you still had that,
Yeah.
right? Come the DA and, oh 05, oh 06, and and it still exists, but there was this massive knocking of heads, right? So into 2025 and the experience that I've had before is there's a better and rightfully so appreciation, maybe not cooperation or collaboration quite yet, but an
Great
appreciation,
word. Yeah, great word.
yeah, of the high school space and how that works within not just the development, but truly the experience of a high school soccer player. And I'll be one of the ones to say, I probably was wrong for, telling, a DA kid, hey, do you think you should really be playing this, high school? And now when I've gone to games, when I was with the pro academy, and obviously that was a part of it. And they've just transitioned where they can play high school. There's massive value in it. There's huge value in
Hmm.
being able to play in that environment, being able to play under those sort of standards and expectations, because that is probably the closest transition from a competitive standpoint in terms of an environment that you go from high school to college,
Yeah.
right? When you are playing in, when you're playing at Blossom, when you're playing at Comeland, or you're playing out at Northeast, at Northside, and you've got a crowd there. You've got crowds there also, at 7 p.m. on a nice night in the winter, and things are really exciting. Contrast that to going and playing a club showcase, and it's one of three, four games you're going to play in a weekend, and it's just another game,
Yeah.
right? You've got college coaches there, but those environments, high school most reflects it. So I've seen an improvement in that, and I'm glad for it. I think, fortunately, on the girls' side, maybe because they haven't had those restrictions through ECNL, through GA necessarily, um, that high school soccer remains, rightfully so, a prominent place, and Texas high school soccer is very good.
Hmm.
So I've seen that, again, evolution, adjustment, where there's a greater appreciation of it. I think now, you know, fortunately, you are having soccer coaches being hired for soccer positions in high school. And so club coaches, necessarily aren't worried about, that space and that time that they are, quote unquote, losing their student, or the player to high school. Um, Rafa, as a former high school coach, I'm sure you can appreciate Hector as current one now is there's now not too much difference. There is difference, but there are some very bad club coaches. There's some very good club coaches. So this generalization of well, you're going to get great coaching here. I've seen some phenomenal high school coaches,
Absolutely.
phenomenal, and and I've seen some amazing club and academy coaches. So I like that now that gap has shrunk in terms of, well, when you go to high school, you get this. No, when you go to high school, you can get a very good experience beyond that.
Right.
Absolutely, club provides it, and it should because you're paying for it. Um, but I've seen that improvement within the environment, and for me, it's to equally engage
Hmm.
those high school coaches because they see the individual, they see the student athlete, they see the young woman in a particular environment and setting that's unique to them only, day to day,
Right.
um, in
Yeah.
again that academic setting. So they have a more complete perspective of that student. They tend to probably know the parent maybe a little bit closer, which is key for us as well,
Right.
understanding the family. So they play a massive role and one that we continue to
Hmm.
try and engage.
Yeah. And I shared this on our episode yesterday as well, when this topic came up, and we discussed about how enlightening. And I get it. College coaches are pressed for time, but all coaches are, right? There's only 24
Absolutely.
hours for everybody, right? So within their coaching staff, one of them maybe doesn't have to be the head coach, but what I strongly urge college coaches to really consider is with a student athlete when they're, because obviously their decisions, their recruiting decisions will inevitably affect their livelihood, right? So
Yes.
why you chalk it up to only going and seeing them at a showcase event, depending upon what patch they have on their uniform, if it's
Yeah.
ECNL, RL, GA, what have you, followed by an ID camp, right? That to me, that's not enough. I think that
Right.
what coach, just as you said, right? What coaches, and I have to share this today with since we have a college coach on here,
Mhm.
is what coach can better speak to that kid's character day in and day out, what they're like in the weight room, what they're like in the classroom, right? What they're
Mhm.
like in the locker room, right? What their leadership capability, right? What are they like? All of those components, the character piece. No coach, the coach who can speak to that best is probably that coach that spends anywhere from off season 8 hours, a week to in
Yeah.
season 12 to 15 hours a week with them, right? Day in and day out for 9 months a year, not to mention the summer workouts, right? So
Mhm.
college coaches really have to consider that in terms of reaching out to high school coaches when they're trying to make some of these decisions on some of their recruits.
And I think to that point of those conversations and the high school coaches know, and it's even with club coaches as well. A small portion is the soccer, right?
Correct.
I will speak to anybody, any college coach. We don't need a whole lot, you know, probably a little bit more than 5 minutes, but 15 minutes. I can see you, and I've got a solid enough idea. I want to see you probably 3 times. I want to see some expansive some game film, but that being said, those conversations with high school coaches, it's going to be about the quality of that individual, their
Yeah.
character. The soccer stuff we can figure out, and it's important. We want to know. But Hector, to your point of if we as coaches are saying we want to provide a holistic experience, to then just talk to one coach or to just talk to a soccer coach, to not talk to a family member, to not talk to an uncle, to not talk to a counselor, a neighbor, then you can't obviously get the holistic view of that student athlete.
Yeah,
So,
I tell college coaches all the conversations I have regularly with college coaches on the phone is, I mention to them their skills, right? Their technical, tactical skills, their
yeah,
capability, their athletic ability. That's what's going to get them to your campus. What's going to
absolutely.
get them to stay at your campus are all those tangible intangibles, right? The character piece, the leadership piece.
Yes.
How do they respond to adversity, right? The first time that they arrive as a freshman and they're not starting, you know, two
Right.
months into it, are they going to run for the portal? What are those are some of the
Absolutely.
things that you really have to. that you really have to try to evaluate. So yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. Rafa?
Coach, do you think maybe kind of talking about this, the high school coach kind of mirrors what the college coach does? Because, like I said, I've coached both club and
Yeah.
high school, and you build that. Being a high school coach, I built relationships not only with the player but also with the teachers. I got to make sure the grades, the
Mhm.
counselors and stuff like that. I think that really mirror. Does that you think it mirrors a lot? What you do in college is as far as similar to what you see in high school.
Yeah, Rafa, that's a fantastic point. I've never been asked that. I've never thought that, but you're spot on. I think in terms of you trying to mesh. I had a call this just this evening, and this young lady said, "Well, my club environment, because we're all the same age, like we get on really well. But in high school, it's challenging because you've got freshmen to seniors." And I kind of
Mhm.
laugh because that's how college is. Like you're having to mold, different ages, different classes, different experiences, and that can be challenging. And the high school coach most deals with that, absolutely. In as much as you're right, engaging administrators and teachers and having those relationships because that student athlete is sharing those spaces, right? And so you do have to have a complete investment with the teacher and help and support, and you equally have to do so, right? You
Mhm.
can't be the escape and because things aren't going well in the class. No, we have to make sure those things are happening as well. And so absolutely, I would echo that, and certainly say that that is most reflective, which for high school coaches who maybe are looking about taking quote unquote the next step. That's why you have a lot of successful high school coaches go into the college space and do well because those things are very familiar to them. How to manage a group of different ages, how to manage administrators and teachers, how to deal with a program from all different points and facets. And I think very much so. That's a not an easier transition, but maybe a more familiar one to them.
Mhm.
Yeah, a while back, Coach, we had the legendary Rusty Oglesby, right,
Yeah,
from now Hardin Simmons.
yeah,
Uh, had him on, and one of the things that I asked him was like, "Hey, how have you handled that transition from high school to college?" And
mhm,
one of the very first things he said was, "I was amazed how much time I actually had," because he was so
yeah,
used to, right, as a educator and a coach at the high school
absolutely,
level, it's always go 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 nonstop. On
absolutely,
you barely have time to eat. Um,
yeah,
and he was actually amazed at how when he could just focus on the soccer piece, the recruiting piece,
right,
how much more time he actually had. So yeah, that sticks with me hearing that one because I went the other way, right? I went from
yeah,
obviously college and club to high school. So yeah, and I
hmm,
noticed that for sure. So all right, coach, we transition and speak in staying with the club piece a little bit, but
yeah,
all right, recent stuff came down today. U.S. Soccer, because apparently U.S. Soccer has it all figured out, right? They want
hmm,
to, first of all, they announced that beginning August 1st, 2026, we're going to go essentially back to the birth year format model, right, that we
hmm,
used to have. And they also, and that wasn't enough, they're forming a committee, U.S. Soccer that is, to evaluate college soccer, right?
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I know you can go a number of directions with that, but what are your just preliminary thoughts on that?
I mean, the immediate thought from both sides, it has, or both, conversations, still has the same foundational piece, which is to what end and to what objective, right?
Hmm.
How does this serve either the development or promotion of the game in both the youth space and then in the collegiate one? Um, if you read some of those articles, obviously it talks about that change.
Right.
But a big portion towards the end of some of those articles and some of these, comments is the financial piece,
Of
right?
course.
What can be made on that? So, that doesn't change in the club space, obviously, with our pay to play model. So, um, the immediate is, when you get away from all of that, what is the purpose of it? How does it best serve development and promotion of the game? And collegiately, if we just take that space, I mean, Hector, when you were at Air Force, you know it. Trying to play, you know, 2 games in 3 days, trying to play 5 games
Yeah.
in as many weeks, it is unhealthy.
Yeah.
It's simply
We played the Friday Sunday format other than when we were playing BYU, of course.
yeah, of course, yeah. But for us in Texas, in our conference in SCAC, we will play Friday at 5, and then we'll play Sunday at 12. So there's no break in the heat, right? It's just going to be hot.
So that format
And,
hasn't changed at all in the SCAC. It's still the same. Yeah.
and thankfully, they've given us the one day between. It used to be, 2 games in 2 days,
Yeah. Friday, yeah.
and you still have that. So I think if that alone is enough reason, for the health, well-being of the student athlete, it doesn't matter. NAIA, junior college, Division 1 through 3, it doesn't matter. The fact that that is a conversation that we'll start with Division 1, obviously, needs to be had from a health standpoint and benefit of it. That for me would be, chief among it. Where it falls from there, again, the questions have to be to what end and what's your objective. NCAA, U.S. Soccer, U.S. Youth Soccer, and every other entity underneath that.
I think you're on mute.
I think you're on mute, Hector. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. As I was saying, as we start to transition here, Coach, with our first segment, tell us a little bit more of between now and when players report back. What is the rest of the summer look like for you in terms of the recruiting trail, ID camps? Where will you be? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So most immediately this upcoming weekend, I'll be out in Fort Worth. The ECNL Regional League playoffs are there. So starting Friday through Sunday, the group games, and then into the playoffs. So I'll tell you what, any school in Dallas, any university in Dallas is hugely fortunate because of the amount of events that are placed there. So for me, a lot of my summer, thankfully, can be in and around Dallas. Whether that's at Metamere, out in Frisco at Toyota, or down at UTD's campus with their fields, or out in Fort Worth. There's plenty of places, thankfully, and a lot of events that come there. So most immediate, that's where I will be those 3 days. So beyond that, the other things that we have are, again, similarly ID camps, clinics from other universities that are fortunate enough to, or gracious enough rather, to invite us in. And then I think in towards June, late part of June, I'll be down in San Antonio. Lone Star is putting on an ID camp and clinic there at CE's Fields. So as much as I appreciate teams coming to me, I've got to be willing to go out to them. And then I have at least 2 out-of-state trips planned, one to Florida. A fun fact that I was just told when I was connecting with a coach in Florida is there are no Division threes in Florida. So there's a space for us there. And thankfully was able to connect with the coach. So, headed out to Coral Springs there in the second part of July, and then out west to Silver Lakes when, they've got showcases out there out in California.
Right. Awesome. So you're going to be busy, very busy.
Have to be. We if they're not come to us, we got to go to them, and we want to, find the right players. So
Just remember, in the middle of all of that, the priority is getting. I'm a large, remember, so getting me
got you
that
set, dude.
gear.
Don't even worry. I got you.
We're talking with Coach Jeremiah Narvaez, the head women's soccer coach at the University of Dallas Crusaders. Coach, really appreciate you. First segment in the books. Our listeners, our supporters, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick word from our partners. Looking to step up your social media marketing game? Well, let us tell you about our great friends at Gipper. Gipper is a way that schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 4,000 coaches, ADs, SIDs, and club directors who use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part? Anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. If you do have significant design experience, you're going to love this as well, as you are what they call the power user, and this is designed with you in mind as well. And just for being a listener and supporter of the 50/50 podcast, you can receive savings immediately and save 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050. And then there are our great friends at Global Scarves, both Bill and Kyle. They are the top providers of custom knitted scarves, beanies, and other fan merchandise in the U.S. All merch is fully custom with free design services and free shipping on all orders. They do so much more, guys, than just scarves. Blankets, beanies, you name it. It's all designed and all customized to your specifications and needs. You can contact them at info@globalscarves.com to get any free designs or quotes built out for your school, club, or maybe even a supporters group. Simply mention the podcast or use the code #5050pod, and they will be sure to take care of you. All right, and we are back, episode 135, with head coach of the University of Dallas women's soccer Crusaders, Coach Jeremiah Narvaez. All right, Coach, it is that time. Moment of truth, counterattack, segment 2. You ready?
Ready.
This is where we get to have fun not at your expense, I'm sorry, but with you. We get to have some fun with you.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. First one, rapid fire, VAR, yes or no? VAR, VAR, however you do it. No?
Absolutely not.
No, a purist, huh? I love it.
Yeah.
All right, secret talent.
Oh my gosh, this will be fun for everyone. I'm phenomenal at pickleball. If you put me on a court, I'm a 5-0 plus player. I'll dominate whomever.
I don't even know what that means, but I'll believe you. Okay.
Oh my gosh, Hector, you're missing out, man.
I don't know.
He's got to come. It's got to go to chicken and pickle.
I go chicken and pickle, absolutely. You're missing the fastest growing sport, Hector.
I don't know. It looks, I don't know. I mean, I'm competitive as they come, but that looks I don't know, man. I'll keep my comments to myself because I'll have the pickleball army after me. So, all right, next one. Favorite? I think you and I have actually had this conversation before, but favorite number and why?
Oh my gosh, number 11. Number 11 is I got it in college. I had it in high school. My wife, Monica Narvaez is we're high school sweethearts. It was a number that we had, and it sort of became our family number. So
Nice.
my kids, whenever they can, they try and grab it. All my sons, and that was it. I wouldn't say unfortunately, but I'm a Man United fan that's really struggling these years.
God.
And so, thank you.
This concludes the podcast, Coach. You were on a great run. It was a great run.
So Giggs at that time was, was
Oh yeah, he was 11, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was 11. Yeah. Gotcha. I was hoping you wouldn't mention that, man.
No, I had
we could
to.
get through the
You
whole
I
thing.
would. You knew I would.
God, oh my God. All right, next one. So put you on the spot here. Greatest ever male and female soccer player. Your opinion?
Oof. Female soccer player. I love to watch Martha. I mean, she's phenomenal. Like I can't think of anyone better past or present. Just plays the game the way it should be. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Male soccer player. I just love Zidane. I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily the greatest. He's just my favorite. That's
It's poetry, man.
it's poetry. Absolutely, poetry
Yeah.
in motion. Zizou is
Absolutely.
he's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, you got two Real Madrid guys on here, so yeah, we won't.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we won't. We won't put up a fight on that one.
We'll see. There you go. I try to make up for my United comment. There you
Yeah, no, man. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. Path to redemption. All
Yeah.
right, bucket list destination. Place you haven't been to before. Please do not say the Theater of Dreams before it's a wrap. Place you want to go.
Japan. absolutely want to go to
Oh yeah,
Japan.
yeah,
That's a place that's on the list, and hopefully it'll happen soon.
yeah. Love their culture, man. Love their culture.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one. You might be the first one that's actually mentioned Japan.
Really?
Yeah, maybe I'm trying to think back when I asked it. That's one of the ones that it's one of my frequent counterattack questions, and I don't recall hearing Japan before. So,
Yeah.
all right, going back to the pandemic here, right? When we
Mhm.
were all trapped in our houses, all right, hobby, maybe something you discovered, a hobby you discovered during the pandemic that stayed with you for a little while, or has maybe stayed with you to this day.
Aha, wow, that's really good.
We ask all the
I,
tough questions here, Coach.
yeah, I started back rediscovering. We got rollerblades. You know,
Mm,
me and my kids and my wife, and that's something I hadn't done since I was like in middle school. So,
yeah,
you know, the five of us, four of us in the house, all got a pair. Obviously, streets were empty. You know, our little neighborhood basketball court. Got some hockey sticks there, and Fairchild Park down there in San Antonio used to
yeah,
have
yeah,
a
yeah,
hockey rink
yeah,
there,
yeah.
indoor.
Hmm.
Man, we would go down there, and I mean, we would play. So that's probably rediscovered a hobby.
There you go. All right, next one. Greatest sports movie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Um, what immediately came to mind was Hoosiers. I mean,
Mm.
that's
Yeah, that's one of my three. That's one of my three.
yeah, that one for me. I'm a baseball guy, so you know, Field of Dreams itself is
Mhm.
is an amazing one. So you know, any one of those two.
Fun fact: I still, to this day, have not seen Field of Dreams.
You need to go
Yeah,
get it on Netflix.
I have
Find
not.
one, watch it right now. James Earl
The
Jones.
the the moment you tell me you've denounced your Manchester United fandom support,
No,
support, I'll watch it. So how about that?
no,
So
not happening.
all right,
Not happening. Or they say something about like religion and spouse and everything else,
right,
political,
right,
whatever you
right.
can, but not your team. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw that one not too long ago, actually.
Yeah, that's
Um,
brutal
all
for
right,
me.
watching a movie and eating, watching a movie alone in a theater and eating alone at a restaurant. Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I love myself.
Yeah.
I don't need anybody else.
I never knew how much judgment there was on this thing for
Yeah,
on because yeah, I was surprised
for
because I was
sure.
like, I do it all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't see a problem when people think like I
Yeah.
got two heads when they say it, when I say it.
Yeah, I know. I was shocked. I was
And
shocked.
just from the Richardson area here, because that's where I'm at. Cindy's New York Deli. I mean, I can go in
Oh,
there, cup
nice.
of coffee, you know, a Reuben or some pancakes. Man, I could eat there every day on my own, no
What was
problem.
that again? Cindy's what?
Cindy's New York Deli
Gotcha.
on Campbell Road in Richardson, Texas.
There you go. Cindy's New York Deli. Got it.
When
All
you're
right.
up here, either of you, it's on me.
All right. There you go. All right. Next one. I'm going to open up a can of worms with this one. All right.
Oh man, okay.
You are appointed the soccer czar in America. All right. Anything goes, everything. You oversee all of it. All
Yeah,
right. So first thing you change regarding soccer in America tomorrow.
pay to play model. First thing at the youth level would be the pay to play model. Next thing would probably be, and this is something that came, I think probably the Dutch did it, every European, I'm sure, country did it, but appropriate field sizes for ages and
Mm,
levels. So, you know, when we did, I think U13, we played on a field that was essentially the size of 18 to 18. It was
yeah.
phenomenal. It
Yeah.
was phenomenal. So I would adjust that accordingly.
Yeah. I don't think I think it's pretty clear identifying pay to play, right?
Hmm.
For a lot of us in this country. I think that's
Yeah.
pretty clear. The hard part becomes is we know that there's still no such thing as free soccer, right? So I guess what are your thoughts on how that would get paid, or generating money, generating revenue for that, to close that pay to play gap? Any thoughts on that?
There is, whether it's from the youth organizations and governing bodies within, again, city, state, local, is again the reinvestment from those into those communities. So if you talk about registrations going to I mean, Hector, you sent me that league model of I don't even know what it was, right? That you and I, Rafa, as coaches,
Mhm.
we're supposed to know. We can't explain it. So if you have all these, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
these leagues that are essentially taking money, right? And I should be careful. Don't not talking about necessarily a redistribution of things, but um, you have to have an objective single head that we know where we're going, we know where the money is, and then we can place it appropriately. When we have a city like San Antonio, Dallas that has, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 leagues, different governing bodies, you're paying whomever, and where's that money going? And it's not redeveloping and reinvesting back into the community.
So what I'm hearing is we need a soccer czar, is what you're saying, right? We need every state maybe or national, but yeah, it's funny you
Yeah.
mentioned it too because Rafa was just enlightening me on. I didn't even know about another league here in San Antonio, another youth league. I guess the breakup, right? For what was
Yeah.
it,
So
salsa and what was the other one?
yeah, Asa, and so there's a new one called Salsa that broke
Yeah,
away from Asa.
I didn't even
Right.
know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. So yeah, so just yeah, I get you. I hear you. All right, next one. Now we coached together, coach, on this one. So, or we coached together, I should say. But on this one, I don't recall us ever having this conversation or noticing anything from you. But any game day superstitions or rituals?
I always chew gum. So I always have a piece of gum that I put in prior, and then um,
Now, are you superstitious about the gum though? The
it
type,
is
the
it's
flavor? What
it's extra spearmint
Okay.
gum, and then right at whistle.
you mean this
I
guy
like it.
right
There
here?
you go. That's it.
I go through about one of these every 2 weeks. Yeah,
Easily. I was down to my last stick in my car today. Didn't have one coming home, and it felt like I lost oxygen. I didn't have it with me, so
yeah.
that's probably the most immediate. And beyond that, no, not too superstitious. We can't control much, so you
Yeah.
know, don't go
Yeah.
beyond that.
Gotcha. All right. Go to karaoke song.
Sweet Caroline. I mean, it's
Really? Okay.
you don't have you can be a terrible singer, but the bar, the club, the crowd's going to get into it. So that helps you negate a little bit of it. So it's more of a crowd song. It brings
Yeah.
everyone in. So
Look
yeah,
at you.
Diamonds, Sweet Caroline.
I can tell you put a lot of thought into that
Well,
one, didn't
absolutely.
you?
I mean, come
Yeah.
on, Hector, you got to be prepared for all
All
these
right.
things.
All right. So here's a different one, different angle.
Yeah.
If you could be born in a different era or generation, which would it be? Which or when would it be?
Ooh, that's a really good one.
Kind of a time frame as far as decades or
Yeah.
anything.
Um, oh, man, that's really good. I would probably say, you know, man, I would probably say probably start of our country. So 1700s, 1776, and in and around those areas. I'd like to know and feel that sort of birth of how this country came about, and the things that came before it, and immediately after it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm watching this series. I don't know if you've come across that series right now. As soon as you said that, it kind of brought that to mind. That Kevin Costner series on history. Have you seen that? The
I've
West?
only seen a few, but yeah, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've seen the first three. I don't know how far into it they are. I know there was a couple. I think at least one, if not two more, since while I was in
Hmm.
Europe. So, but yeah, it's pretty interesting, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next one. So, a superpower question here: invisible or mind reader? Which one?
Mind reader. I
Okay.
mean, we're in the business of trying to convince slash manipulate slash sell. I'd love to know what you're thinking, then I can
Yeah.
just get right to what's happening. And
Yeah.
when you're not tracking back or pressing, I know what's going on in your head, so I can just tell you what needs to
Yeah.
be done. You need to
Yeah.
read some
Yeah.
minds.
When I asked this one, I've told a couple of coaches I've already mastered the art of invisible because I'm already treated like that at home all the time.
Love
So
it.
so yeah, so mind reader, it is absolutely. I agree.
Rightfully so, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. All right. What was your most recent Google search?
Oh my gosh, what was my most Google search? I should probably look on my computer. My gosh, what was my most recent Google search? I think I looked up. My son is going to Jesuit here in Dallas, and I
Mm,
think I probably was looking up some information on the Jesuit order. I
gotcha.
didn't realize schools like Gonzaga, St. Louis University are Jesuit schools. So most likely it was probably something in and around that. Nothing
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. He's going to be incoming freshman, rising
He'll
freshman.
be a freshman, yeah. He'll
Freshman.
be
Nice.
a little ninth grader. He's excited.
How do you feel about that great soccer program? How do you feel about that?
It does. It does have a really good one, and maybe one if they need a volunteer there, I go and
Oh, look
volunteer.
at you. Look
Be
at
there,
you.
my kid. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
a great school, great program. He's excited. We're excited for him.
Awesome. Awesome. You'll have to keep me up to date on that one for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Final one, coach. All right. Final one here in counterattack. So, this is kind of a doozy. All right. So, you have to start one, bench one, and cut one. Okay. So,
Okay,
different sports, all goats. Start, bench, cut.
got it.
MJ, Michael Jordan, Tom
Yep.
Brady, and Lionel Messi. Start, bench, cut.
Uh, I cut Brady.
Wow. Right out of the gate.
I start Jordan. I mean, I was born in '82. I grew up in those '90s. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
that man's. I mean, he's
The goat of
phenomenal.
goats. The goat of
He is
goats.
a bit of goats, and I would bench Messi.
Yeah.
I'm a Ronaldo fan.
Look at you. Oh, wow. And you didn't cut him. Wow. Look at you. Wow.
Yeah,
All right. Being a diplomat. I like that.
yeah.
Awesome. We are talking with Coach Jeremiah Narvaez, the head women's soccer coach at University of Dallas Crusaders. Coach, this has been awesome. Really loved you coming on, Maya. Thank you so much. Obviously, I know in the middle of it, you're busy. You just kind of laid out to us all the things you got going on, but still making time for an old friend
Absolutely.
jumping on his podcast. Don't worry, no one's listening. It's just us three here. So, but really appreciate you. But one of the things that we do that is customary is we try to give our guests the opportunity to give them some final thoughts here in stoppage time. So, shout outs, thank yous, anything that might be on your mind as it relates to the game, whatever it may be. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. I mean, from where you guys are at that, in the 210, I got to defend 210. So,
There you go.
SAFC is a place that I mean, I absolutely loved it. It sort of reignited my love for the game and for coaching. And so, that organization and obviously Spurs. We're in Mavs country here, but we're still flying our Spurs flag up here. So, obviously, thanks to that organization there. And I'm a UIW alum, so
There you go.
with
There you go.
the
Do it again.
guys that are still there, Sal Cervantes, who's my boy, still keeping the what was Crusaders, now Cardinals, alive there. And really, again, now of where I'm at, we're here because of my wife and moving up here. So an opportunity for my wife, her and the family as I get back into coaching, realizing what that is and what that means for us. So for her, and then where I'm at now, the University of Dallas, give me an opportunity to lead their soccer program.
Awesome. Appreciate you, coach. Thank you. Rafa, final thoughts?
I don't know. It was great talking to Coach, and good luck to you guys in the season. And like I said, the future looks right there for there at UD.
Much appreciated, Rafa. Thank you.
Yeah. And I did catch the jersey, Rafa, but I didn't catch that little sneaky hashtag there. I like that. The Sioux. I like that. So I didn't catch that. So yeah, very happy for Portugal and Ronaldo yesterday. Great match, man. Great match.
Absolutely.
Great match. My final thoughts. I'll follow up. Continuation of really what I hit on yesterday was that for our athletes out there, our recruits, student athletes listening everywhere, particularly that class of 2027. Some of you all are kind of on eggshells, pins and needles, whatever you want to call it. with the upcoming June 15 date. Here's the interesting piece, though, is what will you be like? How will you respond on June 16th, right? And the truth of it is I know there was a stat floating out there the other day that about somewhere between 95 to 98% of recruits will not get a call on June 15th, right? So how do you respond to that? How do you handle that? Or are you, and even if you do get that phone call on June 15th, it's still tiny between the amount of recruits who sign with maybe it's one coach that they get a phone call from, or multiple. They usually don't end up signing with any of those coaches, right? So it's a mixed bag. But the big thing is that's still just another date. All that means is they can now formally, right? D1 coaches, D2 coaches can now formally contact you. That's all that means, right? That does not mean that's the end of the recruiting trail. That does not mean if you're not contacted on June 15th that you're not quality. You've got to continue. So whether you are contacted or not, how do you respond on the very next day on June 16th? Do you go back to work, back to the grind, or do you kind of feel content if you were contacted by 1, 2, 5 coaches, right? How do you respond? So wishing everybody the best, but like I said, it is not the end all be all June 15th. So, kind of manage those expectations, but we do wish everybody luck, and we do wish that as many talented recruits out there as possible are contacted so they can get that experience of being able to speak to college coaches. But because we do have a D3 coach on here, I will mention that, right? There's nothing that says there's nothing stopping you from being able to speak to those D3 coaches, those NAIA coaches right now. So keep that in mind for what it's worth. So, all right. For Coach Narvaez and for Rafa, really appreciate you guys. Thank you to our listeners, to our supporters. Thank you again. Remember, go to our YouTube channel, the 50_50 podcast. Go on there, hit that subscribe button, hit that live bell notification button so you can get make sure you won't miss anything, since 99.9% of everything we do is live. Excuse me. As well as on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, and on Twitter X, that is at 50_50 pod. Go on there, give us a follow, make sure you give us a liking, a rating, whatever, and if you like to listen to the audio podcast form, right, we're on all your, whatever your preferred podcast platform may be, we're on it. Go on there, as I always say, kidding of course, but give us a review, give us a liking on there. If you like what you hear, tell us. If you don't like what you hear, make sure to send all those complaints to Rafa. He's in charge of our complaint department, as I always say. But that is going to do it. Thank you again to all our listeners, supporters. Glad to be back. 2 episodes in the book in the span of 24 hours after being non-existent for the last 2 months. So thank you for your patience. Really appreciate all of you guys. And you know what to do. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on X at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading.